Paul McNally from the WITS Radio Academy is joining me on the line to speak about this week's episode of The Science Inside. And as South Africans, it's something that we're all very, very interested in, the fluctuating petrol price. Fortunately, we've had some petrol price decreases lately, and Paul tried to find out why. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Now, like I said, we've experienced some drops in the petrol price, and you went to investigate why.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that you hear that the petrol price is dropping, and it's going to keep dropping. Like in the next month, it's going to drop 30, 40 cents, which in terms of petrol is quite a lot. So first of all, we spoke to an economist, Dr. Jamin, and we found out exactly why this is happening. And he traced it all the way back to the price of oil, edging on some sort of slight conspiracy theories, debunking a few of those, and really kind of got into the meat of why we're having these savings.
Now, you touched on a very controversial issue, and that's fracking, while you spoke to him.
Yeah.
And it turns out that if we are fracking, it's inevitable that our fuel price will decrease. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting part of all the protests that people have been having about fracking, it's actually going to lower our petrol price. And then if it drops enough, so fracking actually becomes more expensive than petrol, then actually fracking will stop altogether. So it's actually a strange thing of kind of a circular argument where the protesters might get what they want if you're anti-fracking, but probably not for the reasons that you think.
Right. Now, every time we have a petrol increase, the price of our food goes up too. But you quite interestingly noted that that price never goes down when the petrol price goes down. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that was the first thing that I really wanted to know. I was hoping that our expert would say, yes, of course, everything's going to get cheaper. But really, he said that that isn't the case. Like, it's really going to be the case that if petrol is dropping, it just means that your food price is not going to go up as quickly, which is, not the most positive result. That's
no. Not what we want to hear at all. But you did come up with some other really good news, and that's that some really, really smart engineers have figured out how to go something like 3,500 kilometers on a liter of petrol.
Yeah, we went to go visit the sort of Shell Eco Challenge, which is a worldwide competition, and their whole idea is to design cars that can go on a liter of petrol for the furthest distance possible. So it's not necessarily about speed, but it's just about distance on very little fuel. And we went to the University of Johannesburg and spoke to some students there who are making their versions of the cars. We spoke to some Nigerian groups that are doing it with quite interesting style and putting flashing lights on their cars, and they were very entertaining to speak to. But really, at the end of the day, it's about creating fuel efficiency. And hopefully, even though some of these cars that you see that can do 3,000 Ks on a liter of fuel, you wouldn't be able to ride them on the road. But hopefully, some of the innovations that happen, they'll be able to filter through into your car in the future.
The bad news about that was, like your expert said, it's not going to be something that we see used on the roads in the next year or even 5 years. So how close are we to seeing real fuel-efficient vehicles?
Well, I guess it's about how fuel efficient you want something to be. I mean, the expert we spoke to said that some things have already filtered through in terms of like hybrid cars, and how that movement of storing energy on a battery and using that in conjunction with petrol, that's already making its way into our cars. But yeah, it's going to be a couple of decades before we get anything close to what these concept cars can do.
So the bottom line is stop making fun of people who are driving Priuses. At least they're trying.
Yeah, at least they're trying. But, don't indulge their arrogance.
Now, each week we talk about the topic that you've investigated or that the WITS Radio Academy have investigated for the week. But I also want to touch on a really fun segment that you can listen in on the show each week, and that's where you debunk some pretty cool Hollywood tricks or stunts. And this week you spoke about getting run over by a car.
Yeah, I mean, each week we take a different movie stunt, usually, and try and figure out if that could really be done in real life. And the horrible thing about this week was that thing that you see in so many movies where someone runs in front of a car and they get kind of tapped lightly, and they do a kind of tumble over the car, and then they run off and they're totally fine. Well, that's not the case. And we sort of break down how slow a car actually has to be going for you to get away unscathed. And it's kind of nothing like you see in the movies at all.
And of course, you take reader or listener questions every week. How can somebody submit a question that can be answered on the Science Inside?
They can contact us on our Facebook page, the Science Inside podcast, and then we'll contact them because it's good to get their voice. So if they can contact us on our Facebook page, then we contact the people directly and get your question so then we can put it on the radio.
Great, that's Paul McNally from the WITS Radio Academy. You can listen to the full episode of the Science Inside under here and tell us what makes you very excited about the future of fuel-efficient cars, especially in South Africa. You can let us know in the comment section below.